Welcome to the Tangents Podcast. I'm Susan Farley, Project Manager with McLaughlin Research Corporation, and I support the Public Affairs Office here at the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, Division Newport. We've got a great episode for you. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we've been so fortunate to get some time from our special guest, Rear Admiral Huan Nguyen, who is NUWC's Deputy Commander for Cyber Engineering. First, I'd like to thank Rear Admiral Nguyen and his staff, as well as our sound engineer, John Vannucci, for pulling this episode together. A lot of thought and planning went into this, and it's been a pleasure getting to know Admiral Nguyen in the process. Admiral Nguyen has an outstanding biography, which I won't go into detail here, but I'll post it on the Tangents wiki page. In this episode, we don't get into a lot of specifics about his Navy career. You can read his bio for that. What we do talk about is sort of his origin story. That story is both heartbreaking and inspiring. Admiral Nguyen became the first Vietnamese-born U.S. Navy officer to achieve flag rank. He was born in Hue, Vietnam, the son of an armor officer in the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. During the 1968 Tet Offensive, Admiral Nguyen's family was killed by Viet Cong communist guerrillas in their family home outside Saigon. His life experiences took him from Vietnam to Guam to Oklahoma and then around the world as part of his military service. In this episode, Admiral Nguyen talks about his early days in Vietnam and what led him to a career in the U.S. Navy. We talk about extremism in America and pho. Have a listen. Well, Admiral, thank you so much for participating in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Susan.
Let's start at the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in Vietnam?
So growing up in Vietnam, my dad was in the Army Republic of Vietnam, so we move from place to place all the time. Early childhood memory literally is really battlefield and just things that out in the front line. My dad was stationed at the DMZ for the most part originally. But for me, it was a normal childhood growing up until we moved to Saigon near the capital city. At that point in 1968, there was a total offensive, what they call it, a Tet Offensive. In 1968, insurgent came to my home and literally massacred my entire family. It was a traumatic event for me because part of that is witnessing my mom and dad was executed, witnessing my mom in pain for a couple hours as a child. What I learned out of that is about the honor, courage, and commitment from my dad to his cause. And that kind of shaped what I am today in a lot of ways.
How old were you?
I was 10 years old at the time. Without going into details, right, my dad refused to cooperate with the enemy, and with that, they killed the whole entire family just because of it, woman and child. I have, including myself, 6 other brothers and sisters, and they all were massacred at that same time.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. You were also injured, though. Am I right?
I was injured, and I was literally captured by the insurgent. Over the night, they kept us there, kept me there, and then when there was a big offensive coming, counteroffensive, I was able to slip away and really trying to find, just literally trying to run away from the battle zone. And as I ran off from the cordoned-off area, I was mistaken for being an insurgent. So I was, on the other hand, as I was running, a gunship helicopter was shooting at me, running away. It was quite a harrowing ordeal coming out of that. But
so how did you get out of that situation?
I was so I ran into a field hospital. They kind of patched me up a little bit. Ran into one of my father's assistants, and he saw me. He was asking me about question about my mom and dad. I told him what happened. He made a call to my uncle, who then came and picked me up outside of the battle areas, outside of the combat areas, and it was chaotic. I can't describe it, right? It's a scene out of it's like a movie set where people are dying all over the place. You see limbs and arms were torn off. You see people dying on the street. You see people just crying for help. And
Where did you and your uncle go after that?
well, we went to a safe area, considered safe, but the whole city was under siege, right? The whole city was under attack. So really, there's no safe place. It's just a matter of finding a place that you can think that you can. You don't get the literally find a safe place to be at. You know, imagine the whole city is a war zone, right? So really, there's no safe place. We just pray that it doesn't happen again at that point. So, again, from 10 on, I lived with my uncle in a military base. And I would tell you, the war is at your door, right? Every day you hear the shelling, the attack, and things like that. I mean, it's almost literally next door. You never know what's going to happen next. And living under that condition, you always fear for your life. It's not a good feeling. And so when the communists start a total offensive in 1975, we were lucky enough to be evacuated by the American military to Guam. And I was scared. I was 16 then by that time, really scared about what next for me. There's no hope, there's no future, right? Especially the fresh memories of what happened in 1968 was just fresh on my mind. I know I cannot stay back.
So before you arrived in the United States, you stopped off at Guam, and that was sort of your maybe your first real introduction to U.S. military. Is that correct?
So when it came to Guam, it was one of those moments that you see. We came there, and I tell you, the whole U.S. military, the people that were there, they don't even have the whole area built up at that time to take on refugees. The military, they were building tents, they were building facilities and everything else to bring on the refugees onto the base. And I was just looking at these young sailors and Marines working out in the hot sun, putting up tents, and all at the same time, right? We were really treated with dignity and respect. We were not treated like refugees. We were treating like people that really need help. And that have a lot of good impression on me about the military, right? About actually it's just about human being human, being people that really care for other people. And I told myself, I have to repay this kindness in the future. I have to repay for what they are doing for us today, right?
How did you end up going to the United States?
Yeah, so it was interesting. Yeah, it was. It was. I was one of the. Like I said, I was lucky enough, not unlike thousands of other or millions of others Vietnamese refugees who have to evacuate by boat. For me, it was since my uncle was in the Air Force, Vietnamese Air Force, and he has a lot of. He worked a lot with the U.S. Air Force. We were able to secure a what they call evacuation flight. But even then, it was like in the middle of the night. You go there, you wait, and you see if they even call you up to see if you can get on the flight or not. You don't know, right? So every night for several nights, we just get there in the darkness and then just wait until we get manifested for the flight, and then for the flight out to Guam. We finally did, just myself with my. The families of my uncle. He had to stay behind because he's still on duty. The whole family was crammed into this C-130 that normally take, I don't know what is the capacity there, but they would just like shove as many people as they can into the C-130 for the flight to Guam at that point. And again, I was sitting on the floor, don't know, again, wondering about my future. And I was lucky than most, right, for having that, being on that flight instead of escape by boat or like a lot of other refugees.
When you came to the U.S., you ended up in Oklahoma. That must have been a culture shock. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's really a culture shock for being in the United States more than being in Oklahoma itself. Number one, the kindness of the people that helping us. I came with nothing but the clothes on my back, and really I have a violin with me at the time. That was my prized possession at the time. So they took us in. My sponsor family is a Colonel Valuva. He was in the U.S. Air Force, retired from the U.S. Air Force, took us in, rent us a one-bedroom apartment for 9 people. So that we can cram into it. It's tough life, but at the same time, I was just grateful being there. I was grateful that we can live in peace. There's no war going on at any one point. Everything was just so peaceful. That's the thing that really hit me the most, is that how calm and peaceful and life is so beautiful. It's not like when I was back in the day where I worry about what happened the next day.
How did you adapt? How did you learn the language?
Well, I came, didn't speak any English at all. They put us in a 2-month, I guess, remedial English class. I was studying with low kid as well as young, with adult people that was in there for 2 months, watching TV, Sesame Street, other TV show at the time, Gomer Pie, USMC. So it really is about just trying to adapt to the culture, adapting to the and amazing thing is that if you are in a must-do situation, you can learn it very quickly. After that 2 months, I was thrown into high school. I was going to my junior year in high school.
How did you like American high school?
I love it. There's so much, so many different things going on at the same time. I love the Friday night football games, going to the football games on Friday night. I love all the folks that was in there. My high school is mainly in Oklahoma, so you can imagine there's very little diversity in there, but again, people are very nice. I learned about the culture, American culture, that way through high school, right? The pep rally, the different activities within the high school itself. For me anyway, the way that I trying to pass high school really is taking all the math and science class, because it's a universal language, right? Everything that you look into the textbook, into what they have to say, is the same thing that we learn in Vietnam, same thing over here. Take less of a social study class and more of the math and science, and actually that set me well for the path for the future.
Admiral, can you tell me a little bit more about happy times in Vietnam?
We grow up just like here, right? You have normal times. You go to school. You make friends. You start at 16. I start thinking about dating and things like that, right? So there's a lot of the good things that are going on. I love literature. I read books. Listen to music. I'm happy where I was, but there's also the ugly side of the war, right? The ugly side of the war is that you'll be walking to school or biking to school, and some days you see a house that was been rocketed the previous night, and the occupant in the house probably dead by then, right? So these are the kind of things that the image that I grew up with, living in Vietnam. There was time where it's really extremely very, very happy. There's time that is really sad. You don't know what next. Growing up, right, it's not like we can go to Toys R Us and buy stuff. We fashion our own toys, we make our own toys, we play with things that we can scrounge up and just be creative and building things to play with.
How you started to become an engineer.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because back then I'm already very, very interested in science, right? I experiment with mechanical stuff, making slingshot to go huntings, go bird huntings and things like that. So these are the good memory. Like I said, I like the math and science. I read all the achievement from inventors, from people that create things that make the world better. And I think that engineers is incredible for it. I think engineers bring a lot to making this a better place, right? We build things, we create things, we build bridges, we build homes, we build machinery that help us do our job better. And so those are the kind of things that motivate me to be an engineer more than just join the Navy. But it helps you with the creativity of a person who want to do something better.
So what made you decide to enlist in the U.S. Navy?
Well, I didn't really enlist, right? So I'm going back to the day I was at Guam. I said to myself that I want to repay this kindness. I want to repay this country for what they have done for me. When the opportunity came, when I was ready to go to college, I actually tried to join the ROTC program at Oklahoma State. I didn't have citizenship at that point, so one of the officers there was telling me that, hey, come back later on when you get your citizenship, then maybe we can bring you in, but at this point you can't join. I was disappointed, but continued to study. After I got out of college, 1981, I was still a permanent resident rather than a U.S. citizen. Finally, I got my citizenship then. Wanted to join at that point, but I got a job offer working for the Department of Defense for the U.S. Air Force. So I did that for a while, and in 93, with the Gulf War started, I decided, hey, I want to go back and really, again, repay this debt that I owe to this country.
What were some of your early experiences in the Navy? Did you face any prejudice as when you joined the Navy?
I really don't. I think the Navy as a whole and the military as a whole is a lot more, I would say, progressive in terms of bringing in different background, different ethnicity, different minorities into the armed forces. And we have our goal, we have our mission, we have a job to do. So a lot of times it's the capability that you bring into the Navy, and I would imagine to the rest of the armed forces. We don't look at people differently. America has always been a country of tolerance. I tell you, we are more in the middle of the road than actually extreme one way or the other, right? We're always being kind to others. I remember learning through, going through high school, right? Is there discrimination? Yes, there were discrimination, but a lot of that is misunderstanding. We're not talking to each other. A lot of times people are just afraid of the unknown, right? Afraid of somebody else that don't eat the same thing or don't have the same belief, if you will, right?
Could you talk a little bit about your military career path? Because you've done some really cool things. And how did you get interested in cybersecurity?
I want to join, literally during high school, I want to be an astronaut. that was one of my goals. I said, hey, if you recall at that time, back in the early 80s, the NASA has a lot of the Apollo program ongoing, and I I love the aviation community. I love wanting to get into those areas. But I also love the science and technology of it, right? Every time I step on an airplane, I'm always wondering to myself, it's like, how can man build such a wonderful machine, such a marvel of technology that able to take off and land it at any one place, right? And so that was of a really interest to me. Unfortunately, when I joined the Navy, my eyesight wasn't as good. It was not 20/20. You had to be 20/20 to be really joining become a pilot. And so the other thing that they pointed out to me was like, hey, there's an engineering duty officer community. This is fit your background, and this is something that you can really help. And so that's why I chose that path, going into the EDO community. And it has served me well. Get on my first shipboard tour back then, and I would just love the life of a Navy sailors, for that matter. The U.S. is a maritime nation, so I think that we need to have a strong Navy for it. Okay? And I love everything technology about the Navy. The Navy really embracing new technology out there, and so as an engineer, this is really a dream. Doing the stuff that you love to do, building things, creating new things, innovations, things like that. Cybersecurity. Interesting enough, it was partly because of my early days of working in some other areas in information technology, get interested in cryptography, if you will, right? Cryptography about code breaking and things like that. It was more of a personal interest to me. And then some of the work that I'm doing, I did back then, kind of lend itself into cybersecurity. In this role with the cybersecurity, I again think that this is a new area that we need to champion, that we need to make sure that we are prepared for. Because personally, I think that any war scenario of the future, right, the first shot they're going to be fired will be on the cyber front. At least personally, I think that's what's going to happen. So I want to make sure that we are prepared for it. I want to make sure that we are ready for it. And so I'm grateful that I'm in the position I'm in to really help prepare us for those kind of scenario.
And what are some of the things that you're most proud of in your military career?
I'm proud of everything that I have done in the military. I'm proud of is the fact that we helping with the mission. I'm helping my shipmates, whether I'm helping my battle buddies in Iraq or Afghanistan. All of those are accomplishments that I'm looking back and I would not trade with anything, right? The fact that you have a chance to help each other. You have a chance to shape the outcome of any kind of conflict. It's really indescribable, right? It's something that I believe I would look back fondly 10 years from now. I'm so proud of it that I was able to be part of it.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. And when you see news stories about violence against Asian Americans, what are you thinking? And what would you like people to understand when they're watching these stories?
You know, I said that America is a country of tolerance, right? And we are more middle of the road than we are on the extreme side. However, there are extremism on both sides, and I think that there are extremism today that I definitely would not stand for it, right? The Navy overall, as a organization, we do not accept or tolerate extremism. Event of January 6th, you know what happened there. Those are just things that we as a nation need to make sure that it doesn't happen again. In the Navy, there's also the core value of honor, courage, and commitment. And I would say that from CNO on down, no one would tolerate that type of extremist behavior. And we need to have a culture of honor and respect for your shipmates, honor and respect for other people. But that's in the Navy, right? So if you extract this and going outside to the larger community, it's unfortunate that today we have that type of behavior. But I'm going to be honest here, right? As an Asian American, there's always this concept, there's always this view that we are the perpetual immigrant in this country. I will give you an example, right? If I put myself, right, let's say that I'm taking off my uniform, I'm just in civilian clothes, myself and another, let's say a white Russian guy. And you will ask the question, which one is the one who served the U.S. military? I will guarantee you the answer most of the time would say, yeah, that is the other guy, not me. But we are as American as any other group, and to tell you the truth, all the minorities group, every other minority group, everyone else, we are American. We are one American, right? And I would like to see one day where we don't look just on the outside. We need to really educate folks. We need to have that conversation. We need to have that communication with each other to understand each other's, because we have a lot more in common than differences. We all swear the oath to the Constitution, like it or not, right? We are all put the Constitution ahead of any single individual or organization. Like the Constitution help us, guide us, and really the North Star for all of us to move forward.
Are you optimistic about being able to move forward?
Yes, I am. I think that if we talk to each other, we listen to each other's point of view rather than just ignoring it, it will go a long way in terms of healing the wounds and bring us back together. I have high hope for this country because all of us, again, we are a nation of tolerance, and I want to make sure that we continue going down that path.
So I think, one way to combat that is to be a little bit more curious about each other's cultures. And did you ever return to Vietnam at any point later in your life?
Yeah, I did. I went back there. I was doing some work for Office of Naval Research. Went back there and got a chance to see the country again. It changed, right? It's still a communist country, but I think that people are a little bit more freer. The market economy is a lot more thriving nowadays. So you go there, you see McDonald's, you see pizza place, Pizza Hut, you see Sheraton hotels and things like that. It's really good to see that, right? Because at the end of the day, I think everyone recognizes that the market economy is healthy. It gives people a hope that in the future democracy will eventually take hold and change in the future.
What's your favorite thing about your Vietnamese heritage?
I think it's about the history, about it's about the food, it's about the culture, the way of life, right? Everything that speak to the Vietnamese heritage. But at the same time, right, for us Vietnamese-American in the United States, we actually start blending in with the local culture and create our own culture, if you will, right? And so if you go down to Louisiana, for example, you see where Vietnamese food is blending in with the Cajun food and then becoming a local things. That's really good to see. You go to California and you see the same thing, right? The local food as well as the way that it's going on, people blending it to each other's and becoming something of a even better. Yeah, I celebrate it. I celebrate Hispanic Month. I celebrate Asian American. I celebrate any kind of other cultures as well as diversity group, because I think for all of us, having that open mind about people would change how you view the world. Having that understanding of other folks, where they're coming from, change your perspective and really just enrich your life. with newer thinking, with different view, different experience.
What's your favorite thing about your American heritage?
I want to go back and say American is a melting pot of different culture, different people. And being in America just open up to you, to the world, right? On top of that, we are very, very, in a way, there's the innocent of being American. In a way, there is that, can-do attitude. You can do anything. You can actually, for someone like me who came over here as a youngster who has nothing in the future, I can be an admiral in the United States Navy. What other country will give me that chance, giving me that opportunity, right? It's a land of opportunities, a land of freedom. You can do pretty much anything you wanted to. And I think that the pioneer spirit of the Old West is still in all of us. We championed new technology. We came up with innovation. The internet was American, right? How we developed and designed and how it changed the world today. Imagine that, right? All of the different ideas, the culture, the musics.
So speaking of music, do you still have your violin?
I do. I haven't practiced for a long time, but I still have it. And I promised myself one of these days, right? I would start practicing it again and really play it. I really enjoy it. When you think about it, music also help you with psychologically and also, in general, music just is good for your soul.
So I have one last question, and usually, like in the podcast, I like to leave the listeners with an action or a takeaway or something. So our listeners have learned a lot from your life experiences. What would you like them to take away from this interview?
I talk about the American spirit, right? So I'm talking about all of us together as a people of this nation. I want all of us to come together. I want all of us to be embracing each other's ideals and values and want to make sure that we move forward as a nation, because together we are much stronger, right? We cannot have different extremism. We cannot have intolerance among all of us. I want us to look at each other's and then really celebrate each other's heritage and culture.
What's your favorite invention? What do you think has had the most impact?
Wow. I think that, obviously right in front of us is the internet, right?
Yeah.
The internet changed everything. And that's why there's a lot of countries that are afraid of it. You see places like in China or even in Vietnam and other places, they restricted the internet access from their people because they know that it opened up to ideas, it opened up to new things, it opened up to communication, it's opened up to everything that we do, right? It make the world a lot smaller. It bring all of us together. Now there's also the dark side of the internet where extremism coming into, right? You have people that preaching certain ideas, certain things that allow people to gravitate toward that ideas and think that that's the truth. But that's not it, right? That's not the only things. That's not the truth. And people need to open up to it. People need to understand the dark side of the internet of how it is can be used for the wrong reason. I would say that every one of us growing up, and we need to teach our children the same thing, is that we need to have critical thinking. We need to teach them the critical thinking about questioning about is that the truth or not? Seeking the truth, right? I think is important. Otherwise, we continue to have to go down this path where you have extremism that creating a false reality that people don't realize that they living in.
Having left Vietnam at an early age, how were you able to have like cultural traditions passed down? What kind of cultural traditions do you keep you connected to your heritage?
Yeah, the language is really one of the things that we try to get folks, get like in my family, right? My oldest daughter, when she was growing up, I taught her Vietnamese, but eventually she was just, because she blended into at the school and things like that, she forgot all of it. The thing that would stay with her a lot is really the food, the tradition that we have in the family. We still have, like, every year at the lunar calendar year, lunar New Year, we celebrate it, right? We celebrate together. We bring folks together. We go to visit friends and relatives and things like that. We celebrate certain cultural marker throughout the year that allow us to remind of who we are. Not to make us different, but really to celebrate our heritage so that we can be part of the larger society overall. I would also tell you, I want to go back and talk a little bit about extremism, right? And I talk a little bit about being Asian American and people look at you differently. I will tell you this story. Myself, for example, I'm in uniform, I'm traveling, and I go to the airport, and the TSA agent looked at me and said, well, if you're military, you can go into this line here, but what military are you serving? There's more of that than you think, right? There's more of that type of thinking. Again, like I said, Asian American is being looked at as a perpetual immigrant because we look different. Even within the Asian American group, right, there's multiple layers of different ethnicity. There are Korean American, there's Vietnamese American, there are Chinese American, and then there's a zero generation versus the second or third or fourth generation. There's people who were born and live here their entire life, right? And their parents was here, their parent was back in the 1800s, helping with building this whole country. Until 1940s, right, Asian American cannot vote. Think about it. That's just recent. That's just recent in history. Yeah, no, that's not too long ago that Asian American cannot vote. And we changed it, right? We changed that. There's a Chinese Exclusion Act that limited number of Asian that could come into the country. They go Chinese that can come into the country, but Chinese really Asian, right? But then there's also this notion about Asian American as a model minority because we are always do well. And the model minority is a concept that we shouldn't be embracing. Let's put it that way, because what it does is that it creates a division between Asian American and other group of minorities. If you tell me there's one thing that I would love to, one thing that I think that is the most precious resources in America, and what make America great, what really make America great is really the people, the diversity of the people. What make America great is the fact that we are all together in this melting pot. Thanksgiving, right? We give thanks to the Native American who are helping. Have we forgotten that we also immigrant to this country from the beginning, from day one?
So we have this thing here at Division Newport. We haven't done it because of COVID, so we haven't done it in a while, but it's probably the greatest day out of the work year, and that's International Day. So we'll have, like, in the gym, we'll have, like, I don't know, 20, 30 booths from different, posted by different people of different heritages, and they make something from that culture. What if you had a booth at our Division Newport International Day, what would you make for us?
I think that on those days, especially you don't want to get messy, I would make finger food such as egg rolls and things like that, or maybe even some very specialty finger food that I can make for you. But my favorite food is really the beef soup, Vietnamese beef soup they call pho. Yes.
That's my favorite, my all-time favorite.
But definitely when we get together, I would love to invite you and your team to come down here and join me at going to a pho restaurant for...
No, that's happening. We're definitely going out for pho. That's for sure happening.
But yeah, you brought up a good point here, right? I mean, we enjoy each other's type of food. We enjoy each other's culture. And that's what we should be promoting, right? We should be promoting that, but more than that, we as a nation of immigrant, I think there's so much more that we can accomplish together. We build this nation together. We continue to make this nation the number one nation in the world. We want to continue to promote democracy and freedom around the world. We should be the beacon of these ideals, so that the world will look at us and say, "I want to be like American," right? Part of the reason everyone wants to come here, part of that is because we have the shining beacon in terms of freedom and democracy. That's a true statement that I don't think that, and it still is today for a lot of people.
I can't thank you enough for your time. I know it's precious. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks to your team for helping set this up, all the logistics of it.
Thanks very much for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Tangents.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tangents. You can find all Tangents podcasts on the Tangents Wiki, and you can follow us on Fusion, #Tangents.